election. Stop listening to the superstitious mumbo-jumbo. We have real shit to talk about. We have a general election in less than 4 weeks. Stop talking fairy tales. Let's talk real stuff.
Yeah, start then.
So, if you do anything after listening to me today, can you please stop voting for the Labour Party and for the Conservative Party? If you look over the last 60, 70 years, 80% of people have voted for Labour or Conservative. Do Labour and Conservative represent any of you today? Do any of you know what the Labour Party stands for? Do any of you know what Keir Starmer stands for? Does anyone know what Rishi Sunak stands for? Or the Conservative Party stands for? The Conservative Party, once upon a time, was the party of low tax. We've got higher taxation than since the Second World War. The Conservative Party once stood for small government. The civil service has never been bigger than it is today. It grows and grows and grows. We used to have great British institutions, the civil service, the BBC, the NHS. They are all broken. Can anyone name me a single British institution that we're proud of today, that is doing a good job today? They are all broken. They are all not fit for purpose. Let's move on to the Labour Party. The Labour Party came out of workers. It came out of trade unions. The Labour Party doesn't stand for working people today. It doesn't stand for small business people. It doesn't stand for working men and working women. It stands for middle-class champagne socialists who live in Islington. Labour has completely lost its way. It's deserted its roots, as has the Conservative Party. So please, stop voting for these clowns.
Who should we vote for?
So who should you vote for? There is one party that represents what I've just said, that represents change, that represents a future, and that is Reform UK. Reform UK wants to change. We are not politicians that have never worked a real job. I've never stood for election before this year. I've done jobs for the last 30 years. I am fed up with politicians in this country, and that largely is what reform is made of. People that want to make a real difference. People that are fed up with the politicians of today, career politicians who have lost their roots, who stand for nothing, who flip-flop from subject to subject. Keir Starmer, you must have seen the video compilation where he flip-flops on every blinking subject. Keir Starmer, once upon a time, was Jeremy Corbyn's friend. He openly said, I am Jeremy Corbyn's friend. He nominated for leadership. Now what does he say? Right, so what does reform stand for? So firstly, the tax system in this country is another thing that is broken. We are taxed and taxed and taxed. We're taxed on our income. We're taxed on our spend. We're taxed on when we die. We're taxed when we spend in the shops. It is ridiculous. It needs to be simplified. And if you're on a salary of £13,000 a year, you are taxed. Tell me, how is that sensible? How is a salary of £13,000 a year deserve to be taxed? So reform will raise the minimum tax threshold to 20,000, taking 5 million people out of tax, including pensioners. Pensioners are taxed, sometimes on their state pensions. That is a farce. So we will raise the tax threshold to £20,000. We will do similar for small businesses. If you're a very, very small business, again, you pay corporate tax very quickly. We're going to raise the threshold for corporate tax to £100,000.
Bullshit, man. Heard that before.
And we will reform the BBC. We will reform the health service. The health service is broken. Why do British people worship the health service? What is important is patient outcomes. Every European country is beating us on patient outcomes. Reform will protect the main principle of free at the point of delivery. That is a crucial aspect of healthcare. But most people don't give a damn who is providing that service. As long as it's free at the point of delivery, as long as it causes good results, that's what people care about. They don't care about whether it's public sector NHS workers, whether it's not-for-profit workers, whether it's commercial workers. What we care about is efficiency and good results. The NHS is broken. The Labour and Conservative toss it from side to side, do this bit of reform, do that bit of reform, and the results are falling. Whatever you look at, cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, and we are low in the tables for those things. So we will reform the NHS. We will take frontline nursing and care and social care staff out of basic rate tax for 3 years. We've got to retain our doctors and nurses. We've got to train more doctors and nurses. Labour and Conservative, year on year, have capped how many people are trained as doctors. What a nonsense! So we have to go over to the Philippines and steal their nursing staff. This is an outrage. We have to train our own doctors and nurses.
They murdered people with a vaccine.
Yes, facts.
Yes.
Facts.
And we need a proper inquiry into that.
Not the
pretend waste of space of the inquiry that the Conservative government has brought in. Lockdowns were wrong. Lockdowns were wrong. We should have protected the vulnerable. But what did we do? We locked down everyone.
And they let you
out. We didn't allow the kids to go to school. That was a travesty. A whole generation of kids have suffered from not learning their social skills with their peers. Their education has suffered. The fact that we were locked down is
Hey.
we support Britain. We support Britain. We're not going to get dragged into Ukraine. We're not going to get dragged into Palestine. Britain needs fixing. Let's concentrate on Britain. What about... I just answered that question.
Are you going to cut the aid that goes to Zelensky?
Foreign aid. If you want to talk about foreign aid, the fact that we are sending foreign aid to countries like India with a bloody nuclear program, to countries like China, it's ridiculous. Who is in control? Who is deciding these things? And we need to fight that. Another policy of reform is that we cannot allow foreign entities to own our infrastructure. It is ridiculous that again this Conservative and the last Labour government allowed foreign entities, often foreign state entities, to buy our utility providers. It's an absolute outrage.
You mean the French?
For example, the French, but not just the French.
Can I say something? The Conservative and Labour are not in charge. They've been told what to do. There's no such thing as government. There's no such thing as government. I never vote, man. I never vote. I never will.
Voting for these people. There is nothing different. Well, there is very little different between today's Conservative Party
By the
and Labour
globalists.
Party.
You know who the globalists are. By the globalists.
Galloway has said that I've supported. They are different cheeks of the same arse.
My evidence
Conservatives are not
being on this planet Earth.
The
evidence is being on this planet Earth.
Second World War.
What about immigration? Talk about
Immigration. Let's talk about immigration.
There's million more.
Immigration is one thing that has made this country great.
To exist and open
This country has had immigration for decades, for centuries. But currently, it is completely out of control. And that is what is wrong. It's completely and utterly out of control.
What about the cashless system?
Are abused. We have scam courses to enable people use to come in on student visas. We have scam marriages that people abuse spousal. But most importantly, way, we have to manage legal migration, and we have to stop immediately the illegal immigration. I live in Southall, a very ethnically diverse area, and I can tell you from speaking to the people of Southall, they are as angry, if not more angry than I am about illegal immigration. Their fathers, their grandparents came here by a legal, proper route. They followed the procedure. They are outraged that there are numpties getting on boats, arriving here illegally, getting hotels, getting money. It is a travesty, and we will stop it overnight, and reform will stop it.
I'm not arguing, I'm saying you haven't been paying attention.
The last 4 years we've been on the
The government's fault.
when there was
The government's fault. They are not. I mean, this Rwanda policy. How many millions and millions of pounds have been wasted on this Rwanda policy? There have been more Home Secretaries visiting Rwanda than illegal immigrants. It's a complete and utter joke. That is not the answer. The answer is stopping the boats. Stop.
What are you going to tell the French about the boat?
By stopping the boats. By stopping the boats. We can do that today. You don't need to change the law. You can do it today. Australia did it. Other countries have done it.
No, I act every single week. I'm doing
There you go. So Australia did it. What's stopping us? You tell me, you're laughing. Why can you not stop the boat? Tell me what is ridiculous. And why can we not stop it down? What is stopping it? No, let's focus on that.
In order for the people to
People break the law.
all of these governments have been infiltrated. There's no conservative, there's no Labour, that's going to be something for
Do you really think the majority are refugees? The majority are 20-something men. If they're fleeing famine, if they're fleeing war zones, where are the women and children? As with Ukraine, people were fleeing Ukraine because of a war. What were they? They were women and children. Ukrainian men weren't arriving, and they were fleeing.
What time does this? What time does this read to start?
People arriving illegally in Dover on the beaches of Kent are men in their 20s and 30s. They are not refugees. They are economic migrants. They are economic migrants. Get the words right. They're important words. They're economic migrants in their vast majority. Coming here for a better life. Do you accept that? You don't accept that. Are most of them men? Are most of them men? Are most people being picked up by the RRI in the Channel men?
I put one thing out back.
Right, so we agree they are mainly men. Where are their wives, sisters, and mothers?
Because you have two routes, okay?
Where are their wives, sisters,
To
and
me,
mothers?
and then you can spout your knowledge. So Ukrainians, they have legal
Hello,
routes
tyrant
transported from Ukraine to the UK, so women and children can.
Thank you.
Eritrea, Libya, don't have that.
Albania, Pakistan.
Exactly. They've got to go.
Why should anyone from Pakistan have a legal
They're good at
route?
cricket, Mr. Speaker.
They come here, if they fall in love and marry a British person, if they're studying a public course and get a student visa, or if they're on the high skills list.
Damn good cricketer.
And the high skills list is not a short list. I've dealt with it. I've sponsored visas for migrants coming here on these work visas. So there are routes to come there.
This man is the revelation of the Old Testament.
Yeah, we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 visas.
The best Pakistani
There are legal routes. But that doesn't excuse coming illegally, does it? No, what do you mean people don't have any choice? I went on holiday to Albania earlier this year. The flight was quite cheap. What do you mean Albanians don't have a choice? What do you mean Pakistanis don't have a choice? Well, they were until the government did one good thing for migration. They finally came to a deal with Albania, so we could send them straight back to Albania. That's what, yes we do, but for high skills. We don't.
We call them the working class.
So So you want to bring people from the opposite side of the world for low-skill work? Really? Why? Why?
Work in the farm. Do you not remember with Brexit? That's glorious.
You worked in the farm when you were young, I did. Did you? Oh right, so it's not good enough for us. We need to bring some of the ground people. Don't obsess. You just said the white man doesn't think farm work is good enough for him, so we've got to bring people from across the world. What a disgusting attitude. I think we should train, develop and employ our own people. And by that, I don't mean white, I mean British citizens, whatever colour.
What's the unemployment rate of this country?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whatever colour.
Too hard.
It's not. It's about 2%, which is classic full employment. And yet, we still have job
Unemployment is higher now.
We need migrants to come here. We also need
This is the voice of multi-millionaire capitalists who want to keep salaries low, so they want to bring loads of low-qualified, low-skilled people from the opposite side of the world so they can maximise their profits and they can keep salaries low. The Reform Party doesn't want to do that. The Reform Party wants to make work pay for British citizens who should earn a good wage, a good salary, not be taxed if they're on £13,000 a year. You want to bring people from the opposite side of the world to pick your strawberries.
Because
And he doesn't even get it, does he? He doesn't even get it.
those jobs,
You're going to tell me next you're anti-imperialist.
not never. I'm so proud of us.
Why should we get people from across the world to pick our strawberries?
Secondly, it's a crusade flag.
I picked strawberries yesterday for my allotment. It's not that difficult. You see, this is what we have to change.
Who's the leader?
People like this that keep voting Nigel Farage.
But Nigel Farage, is he the one talking about he want to bring back Tony Blair? I saw an interview with him saying Tony Blair, we should bring him back.
So Reform Party are 2% beneath the Conservative Party. We are going to jump ahead of the Conservative Party before the general election. Reform are going to be the official opposition. In my own constituency where I'm standing, I'm in second place behind the Labour Party. I'm on double the percentage support of the Conservative candidate. Reform are the opposition. If you're voting Conservative, you are wasting your vote. Vote for Reform. Ealing South.
Were you supporting the COVID lockdown? Did you support the COVID lockdown? You didn't support it? If you didn't support it, what did you do? What did you do?
I attended pretty much every single anti-lockdown protest that happened in London. From the very first small ones that Stand Up did, to the massive ones that ended up in Japan.
You know who I am then?
I do recognise you.
That's what I'm asking.
I was there. The first one I maybe can kind of understand because they were panicking, they didn't know how to handle this new disease. But the second, the third, the fourth, utter disgrace that we were locked down.
There was no...
Whilst all the leaders, Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, they were all partying. Apparently these people had access to the data, to the science, and they knew it wasn't true. They were partying, they were celebrating. They weren't worried about it. I did. I took 2 vaccines and then I stopped because I wanted to go on holiday. Very selfish. But you know what? But do you know what?
Integrity fails.
Why? Because I listened to what the advice of the politicians was at the time. I stopped after 2.
What about Dr. Mike Eaton, the ex-chief medical?
I know. I've listened to him speak in person. I agree with that. I signed it.
Right. Amazing. But my point is, how can you expect the British public to vote for reform if you did something?
Because one candidate took 2 vaccines.
No, but you
I think they're on to their 7th, 8th vaccine now. I took 2 because I wanted to go on holiday.
But that's a mental weakness though. Because if you're gonna lead something, you should be mentally strong. Not because you wanna one minute. Not because you wanna go on holiday.
Stephen, my friend or enemy, I'm a little bit older than you. My home city, Leicester, apart from 1 year, has always been Labour. Since 1945. And I voted for Sadiq Khan. He's a good mayor.
Oh,
Yes, he is.
you shouldn't be willing to admit that.
Just admitted it. Long live
This is the
Sadiq
first man
Khan.
I've met.
Long live
This is the
Sadiq
first
Khan.
man I've ever met that's admitted to voting for
And I'm
Sadiq
not even a
Khan.
Muslim, and I can't afford to be Jewish.
You absolute plonker.
No. No.
I thought you were sensible. Nick.
Well, you'll find out.
You voted for this time round.
Labour rules in London. Get used to it.
Sadiq Khan is a weasel of a man. He's a liar. He's a pathological liar. And do you know what?
Rubbish.
The Reform candidate repeated, Howard Cox, the Reform candidate for London
with the
Mayor,
emphasis on
continually repeated, verbally and in writing, that Sadiq Khan is a pathological liar.
better than Boris
Sadiq
Johnson
Khan
as mayor, isn't
never
he?
responded.
He's better than Boris
Now,
Johnson.
If it was incorrect, would Sadiq Khan have not thrown the legal book at Howard Cox for slandering him? No, he didn't, because Sadiq Khan knows damn well he's a pathological liar.
He can play cricket
Even
for
yeah,
Pakistan.
just look at the stats on the alleged stats on ULEZ. Utter lies that they tried to interfere.
Evidence?
They tried to interfere with the university that produced the report, trying to get them to change it.
You're not a journalist.
London air was significantly cleaner.
Rubbish!
Significantly cleaner, way before ULEZ.
Rubbish! In the 1950s, our older generation referred to London
I'm not
as
going back to
smoke.
the 1950s.
No,
I'm
you
going back
should.
to 2015.
You should. After World War II, London was one of the dirtiest cities in
ULEZ
Europe.
is nothing more than a tax on the poor. It's a tax on the poor, and it's an anti-car measure. Because again, both the Labour and Conservative and Green and Lib Dem, they are anti-car. They are anti-car, and they're desperate to raise money, whether it's through LTNs, whether it's through 20-mile-per-hour limits.
Hang on.
They are nonsense.
What do you think
Floating bus stops, unused cycle lanes.
Whoa, hey!
Anyone that lives in West London, have a look at Brentford, have a look at Chiswick
right,
High
football,
Street.
Brentford.
These roads are
They're
now
bees.
car
They'll
parks
sting
full
your
with
ass.
congestion, whilst they have great cycle lanes that are empty.
As a Reform candidate, you're a Reform candidate.
Stephen.
What would you say about
Listen.
the climate? Would you say there is a climate change agenda?
That's all bollocks.
Do you trust-
I was in Greenpeace. It's all one big con. It's actually the new Nazis fronting the Green movement.
Who you
It is.
On my channel.
What's your channel?
Well,
You don't realise this.
YouTube, if that helps.
The Green movement is
But
fronted by
it's my own personal right.
Klaus Schwab and the new Nazis. Every one of us is breathing carbon dioxide right now, so we're heating the planet. We're making London the hottest capital in the world.
Socialism is man-made.
No, it's got nothing to do with socialism. That's where you're wrong.
Nazis are
No, you're wrong. You're so wrong. National
what I would
socialist.
say
That's what
is
you are.
me
That stupid Australian
checking
hat.
my carbon footprint, Britain checking or reducing its carbon footprint is not going to have one iota
Well said,
of impact
well said,
on the
Stephen.
global
Well
climate.
said.
Britain in totality produces 1% of global carbon emissions, and therefore, you know, taxing me for that, trying to limit my
It's
lifestyle
to make the so-called
for
third
that
world
is a
even poorer.
nonsense.
But most of the
You know,
world's
as with
resources are
lockdowns
based
that we
in
were talking
Africa,
about,
Asia,
it's nothing
Russia,
more than
Europe,
control.
our country.
It's nothing more than control and income generation, typically. Why are we all worrying about it in Britain? You know, why don't Just Stop Oil go and protest outside the Chinese embassy, who are opening dozens and dozens of coal-powered fire stations
Sensible.
every
Yeehaw.
month? Why are we focusing on it? And again, it is a worrying, corporately sponsored thing, this obsession. And it is costing poor people. You know, significant chunks of our cost of living are down to green taxes. The amount of tax on our fuel bills, the amount of tax on the fuel that we put into our car, they are taxing us again to the hills. And no, I don't accept that this is going to save the world. No, it's going to cost me in my pocket. Even if you don't own a car, it's still costing you. We use plumbers, we use electricians, etc., etc. They are all being taxed to the whole by green taxes. Net stupid. It is utterly net stupid. And no one has really ever voted for it. No one has voted for these things. And we need to concentrate on what is most important. And what is most important to people today is the cost of living.
That's well said, Mr.
Not
Speaker.
what Greta bloody
Launched by
Thunberg
the
says.
multinationals,
An
not by
autistic,
the Conservative
truanting
government.
schoolgirl who's been pushed by her parents, being pushed by corporate entities. Why does the press listen to her?
Because the media are stupid.
Because the press are got by the
Piers
short and
Morgan.
curlies.
Piers Morgan, one of us.
And stop listening and watching and reading the BBC for
No.
your information. They are the most
Everything's all right.
biased
Here is the
broadcasting
BBC.
corporation you can imagine.
We've sent a nuclear
There was a
warhead into
debate.
Ukraine.
There was a debate. What was it? Wednesday night, Thursday night, which Nigel Farage was
he
part
won it
of.
hands down.
And he won it hands down.
He did.
And it's not just Nick and me saying that.
Yeah,
You know,
he
there were
pissed
polls of people that watched that debate.
Stop
Nick
insulting the
Farage
nation of
came top of all the other people in that debate, head and shoulders above everyone else. Yeah, what did the audience do? What did that
After
typically
Yugoslavia and Ukraine
unbiased?
and Northern Ireland.
What did that typically unbiased representative audience chosen by the BBC do? They booed Farage, they clapped when all the so-called progressives were speaking. The cameras kept focusing on people shaking their head when Farage spoke. If you read on BBC Online afterwards the analysis, the only paragraph on Farage was how everyone else disagreed with him. The BBC are biased and corrupt.
Bullshit, bollocks and
Stop
crap,
listening to them. They have to be defunded. The fact that the so-called state broadcaster that we pay through our taxes behaves in such a biased, corrupt way has to end. It has to stop. You know, watch Al Jazeera, watch I don't know what else. Don't watch the BBC.
You insult the Quran, you insult Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, you come back as a
concentrate on
Pakistani
Britain.
gully. You will have to die under the Hindu army as we retake Pakistan.
More people. I tell you what, on a related
No, I'm
point,
not having a laugh.
we have very recently had the introduction of sectarianism in British
All the people know
politics.
it's all part of India.
I think that is appalling. I think that is diabolical. I think that's what should be avoided at all costs. Because sectarianism should not have a place in any healthy democracy. In any healthy democracy. And unfortunately it now does. I mean, you know, just look at the response of some of the newly elected councillors in the recent election. Shocking. Listen to what comes out of George Galloway's mouth and people in his party. Britain does not want that sectarianism. It's not Britain.
War of independence.
Where religion and where different religious beliefs are brought into politics and are used. So where candidates use the faith of some of their constituencies. You know, Luftarama is a supreme example in Tower Hamlets. You know, the most corrupt politician who was banned from standing for election for a long period of time because of the extent of his corruption. He applied sectarian politics in Tower Hamlets. He's back on the scene now. Is he even the mayor of Tower Hamlets? He's certainly back in position now. Again, not at all good for people's lives. It's not right.
So Stephen, sorry to interrupt the speech. You're absolutely right. We're getting a Labour government. But the bad news is, Sir Keir Starmer, he's not a socialist because he's taken a knife. He's a friend of that devil, Tony Blair, right? Yes. I'll tell you something secret in a moment.
Oh, well, it won't be secret anymore, will it?
No.
It's only be secret.
If you're up
Shall we all go like that? Are we up to it, ladies and gentlemen? Are we up to hearing Nicholas's secret?
No.
He's forgotten it.
No, it's serious.
Oh, it is.
All right, I don't mind telling you lot.
Are you sure? No one's going to have to kill you, are they?
On the Instagram account that I have on my Samsung phone, I am currently in dialogue with a member of the royal family.
Senior or...
All I want to say is, Her Majesty and His Majesty would like you to speak to make Britain great.
I mean, I was leafleting in Southall the other night, and on my leaflet, it's quite small, but there is a little Reform logo that says "Make Britain Great."
Yeah, that's a good logo.
And I have to tell you, amongst the residents of Southall, that is the bit of my leaflet that seems to get the biggest and positive reaction.
It's a good area, Southall.
So this whole concept, exactly. So this whole concept that non-white people weren't pro-Brexit,
racist against brown
aren't
and
worried
black
about uncontrolled
white trash.
immigration, or don't support it, support a party like Reform is utter nonsense. I really assure you.
Let me tell you this.
Let me finish this. And again, it's the likes of the BBC, and it's not just the BBC, who continually try to paint Reform as something
extreme right wing,
as something that it is not.
Yes, that's correct.
The Reform Party does have ex-Tories in it. It has ex-Labour supporters.
That's
in
correct.
And more importantly, it has people that have never supported, have never been involved in any politics. I have never voted Tory in my life. I am quite proud to say that. And I am a die-hard Reform supporter. Reform is not just here for the Conservatives, for disgruntled Conservatives. It is here for everyone, not least Labour supporting people
real
who
Labour.
are fed up with the current Labour Party.
No, they're not.
With its
You
lack
are-
of commitment, lack of integrity,
No.
lack of values, and they
Harold
look at Reform.
Wilson, Dennis Healy.
Yeah, that's in the past.
It's not.
You can't say,
Our
Keir
generation.
Starmer, David Lammy, those names.
David Lammy's
he's
a sports Tottenham. That's a reason to be against him.
It's an embarrassment. When you
Anyone who supports Tottenham should
look
be
at some of
stopped.
the things that
They are a team of losers.
when you hear some of the
They
things
are.
that,
Arsenal.
we're not talking about bloody football, please.
It's important. Look, Starmer supports Arsenal. So does Jeremy.
Well, he's an arse.
Jeremy the Saviour Corbyn is an Arsenal fan on the quiet. The Gunners. Red. Listen, I want to say this.
forgot what I was about
Keep
to
it, listen.
say.
In 1997, Jimmy Goldsmith launched the referendum party. The media mocked him, but he was like Farage, one of us. He was ahead of the game, if you like. And it was to get us out of the European Union. He was trashed in the media.
New parties can come from nowhere and become very successful very quickly. It's happened in Poland, it's happened in Canada.
right.
The party of the Canadian example wasn't all before.
What about the Gangster Party?
It can happen. With our system of democracy, which is something else I've not touched on,
It's
it's
the best.
very difficult.
It is.
No, first past the post is broken.
No, it isn't.
It's not
You're wrong
working.
there. You're
It's
wrong
not
there.
working.
We had a vote in
UKIP
2008.
won millions of votes and got one MP. It is broken.
No.
We need some
No.
proportionality
No.
in our system of democracy. The House
We
of
have
Lords
that.
has to be reformed. It's corrupt.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
how many Lords have we got? Is it 800?
Too many, that's true.
They can just turn up for 10
£300 a
minutes
day.
in their taxi. The taxi
Yeah,
waits
yeah.
outside. They sign in and they go
The
home.
place is assured,
They
my
can claim
lord.
their expenses.
Tony Blair will
It's
give you a
broken.
place in the House of
Our
Lords.
democracy.
£400 a
We
day.
need to ditch these holy cows that the British
do not
people think
insult
they
Krishna
have.
and
Whether it's the
Indian
BBC,
people. I will
the
be
Civil Service, the
contacting
House
Modi.
of Lords, they are broken.
I will be contacting Narendra Modi and we will kill all Muslims in Pakistan.
So even with first past the post, I predict here and now the Reform Party will get more votes in total than the Conservative Party. We probably won't win more seats.
That's
But
right.
we will get more votes in totality.
You'll be ready for the next
than
election
the Conservative
as well.
Party. You mark my
Historically,
words.
the Conservative
You
Party
what?
is finishing. Yes, Sir Nigel Farage to you. No,
Planted by who?
he's a daffodil. It's not a plant. He's a daffodil.
Who are you
He
voting?
gets it. He's a daffodil.
Because it's not about left.
Yes, it is.
I agree on that. I agree. The lens of left versus right is no longer relevant.
No, you're wrong there, Stephen.
Okay, what about this? What about this?
I'm wrong.
Yeah, what about this?
It's not what we're talking about.
Well, we should talk about it. We should
That's
talk
correct.
about it.
Sorry?
We should talk about it because it's happening.
It's not my subject.
You're
There
going
will be plenty of people here talking about it.
to an Indian war against Islam in
I've said
Pakistan.
I don't want religion or sectarianism in British politics.
That's nothing to do with religion.
Not all of them, I'm afraid.
How come they're sending 80
No, you're wrong there.
Isn't there enough to focus on in Britain?
Yes.
Is there not enough that's
No.
broken and needs to be
Because
fixed?
they're
You
sending,
don't think there is enough?
No, they're sending funds to Ukraine where millions, thousands of people are being slaughtered in Palestine.
Yeah, that's karma.
So we just let Putin
Palestinians
walk in,
abandoned any concept of a
take
national
whatever
state in
bits of land he
1949.
wants. So
What
you
is
back
Israel?
me onto a subject I wasn't going to
What
talk
is
about.
Israel doing?
Killing
Israel is
Muslims,
doing the same, yes.
and there is no Allah.
We're not. No, we're not. Certainly not going to get on to religion.
Alice, I know the history of the worship of the Arabs before Muhammad, the Prophet, was born.
Not relevant.
It's very relevant.
Not relevant.
If you're from the Kingdom of Saudi. Exactly, he's right. That's why you're walking away.
Before you arrived, my first message was if any of my audience
no democracy in the Quran either.
Stop voting for Labour and Conservative. That was my first message.
If you really want to know what to do, you need to understand how the system works. There is a very clear method the system works, which is steeped in system science. It has nothing whatsoever to do with these conservative, reform, or anyone. There are all.
Give us a leaflet. Give us a
The
card.
idea is to educate yourself.
No, the small one.
Yeah, you can use. Anyway, take one of these, educate yourself, come to his origin. Hindu fundamentalist.
Well, Shiva.
That's exactly how the not so obvious establishment works.
See, people
Yes?
in the
They
media
devise
assume
it.
Muslims are all
They label
fundamentalists.
you,
A lie.
and that's just what he's
You have
done.
two fundamentalists,
So
Christian
smile at
fundamentalists,
it. Come along and let us.
Hindu fundamentalists.
It looks like
Yes.
selling
There you go.
to see something bad.
There's no selling.
Oh, it's free, is it?
Education. How to think. How to
But is it like one of those high
Call the police.
sales things that like you get when you're on holiday? Come and get a timeshare.
Yes.
It's free to come. There's free drinks. Come and buy a timeshare. Always beware of people giving out leaflets at Speaker's Corner. So I keep my leaflets out.
Why?
So any more questions on reform?
I tell you, you're very right about the predictions in our country. You are ahead of the game, as most people are. I believe as a 65-year-old that the Conservative and Unionist Party will be absorbed